Hey guys, King of Charmander's here. Today I will be your judge, jury, and your analyst, and because PV Poke is amazing, please consider controlling PVPoke.com. As you see here, the top performers, or the top teams, just got updated. So, as I always do, I'm going to analyze the top 5 teams in Season 7 Great League Part number 5. So, I took a look at this beforehand, and it's a little interesting, but it's pretty much nothing new you've pretty much seen, but you know what, they're really interesting, and you may have seen some of these teams out in Great League, Open Great League. As you see here, I will be analyzing the top 5 teams for Go Battle League Great League, and again, this is part 5, so this is the 5th time this is the 5th time it's been updated, and I'm going to analyze the top 5 teams and see what is being used the most and how good these teams actually are. Anyways, let's get started. So team number 5 features the Medicham Bastiodon core. Yay! So complex, so complicated, and it's just using a Mew safe switch. It's nothing too fancy, like, at all. As you see here, this team actually has a pretty high rating, of course, because Bastiodon and Medicham XL core are just extremely powerful, and it's basically the strongest core in the game right now, in my opinion. As you see here, but anything with Bastiodon and Medicham, it's not really that complex. Like, it has good coverage, good safety. It has the best tank in the game. Of course, it's going to be bulky, as well as the most powerful Pokemon overall in Great League. And it's very consistent. As you see here, this team is a total pain in the butt, only succumbing to basically a Ghost lead or a Fighter lead in the back, which matches up against Bastiodon. Mew is still a fantastic safe switch, just because of you have no idea what it has. Sometimes it can have Flame Charge, it can have Flame Charge, it can have Surf, it can have Wild Charge. As you see here, this is the Wild Charge Flame Charge version, and it seems like Grass is being a little more popular, so Flame Charge is really, really good. In Open Great League, Flame Charge is a beast just because things like Obama Snow, things like Ferrothorn get hit really hard with Flame Charge. Plus, those boosted Shadow Claws actually make a ton of difference when you're going up against a bunch of things. Also, if you use Flame Charge, you also beat G-Fisk. So Mew with Flame Charge is like really, really good and arguably better than Surf. Because even though Surf costs less energy, Flame Charge has better long-term use and better use against a wider variety of matchups. So if you don't have your Mew, you can be jealous of everyone else. If you do have your Mew, you're probably using it right now and you're probably having the time of your life. And as you see here, this team is actually really, really solid. And I mean, if you're looking at the spice meter, it's probably like a green chili pepper, meaning it's like not spicy at all, but you know, it statistically does well. Only your biggest like weakness being Gliscor, as you see here. Gliscor has a very strong match against his, has a pretty strong match against his entire team, depending on whether or not Medicham has Ice Punch or not. Deoxys defense gives you a little bit of a problem, however, Mew, that's what you have Mew for. Mew is a beast. Mew can still take out a lot of things. It can still take out Deoxys defense with Shadow Claw damage, and Medicham XL can chip away at Deoxys defense if you're able to blast it with those Ice Punches, etc. But as you see here, this team's really solid, does really well. Not a lot of potential threats and a really low threat score. So this is actually a very solid team. So I would definitely recommend trying it out, especially if you love the Medicham Bastiodon core. Number 4! The most powerful team in number 4 slot is actually an ABB team that is really, really interesting. So I talked a lot of crap about Venusaur being better than Superior. Holy... like, this team is really interesting. It features Regirock lead, Superior, and Venusaur in the back. So it's a double Grass with a Superior safe switch, I think. Or is it Venusaur as a safe switch? I have no idea, because... yeah, but as you see, this team is really interesting. Regirock is very, very hard to get. Not a lot of people have a Great League one because, well, I have a Great League one, but you know what? If I didn't save some of the ones I got from research, I probably would have trashed them all, just because, you know, it's a Regirock. Anyways, as you see here, Superior, Venusaur, and Regirock, this is an ABB team, and it's a really, it's really interesting. As you see here, this team has terrifying coverage. Not terrifying as in good, terrifying as bad. It does have good bulk, good safety, and great consistency, because all 3 of these will spam a ton of damage, especially if you have 2 community move Pokemon. Now, what makes this team really, really interesting is that you're not very safe. As you see here, this just how every ABB team works. You basically, either you're trying to draw something out or you're targeting a specific mon. In this case, it looks like you're trying to target I think you're trying to target G-Fisk with this team. And you safe switch. If you lose the lead against Regirock, you safe switch into Superior. But look at, the thing is, this back row does really, really well against a lot of combinations, as you see here. Minus the fact that if you see an Altari in the back, or if you see a Fire type in the back, like a Talonflame, you're going to cry. Other than that, this team looks to be really solid. But even if you do have a Talonflame in the back, Regirock does technically wall Talonflame, because it resists the Fire type moves. It also resists Brave Bird, so does do that. So Regirock is a very interesting combination with this team, and a Drought strat that I could see could definitely work with it. As you see here, this team is a beast, and it destroys Bastiodon, so it's even better. The only issue is there is a ton of things that core break your entire team. Poison types hate you. Also, anything that's fighting can possibly give you a hard time. Registeel also gives you a hard time as well, as you see here. With Registeel can straight Flash Cannon Regirock. Also, Regirock doesn't do particularly well against G-Fisk. Well, it does well in a sense that you have Stone Edge and Focus Blast, but it's still not that comfortable. You know, I mean, one Earthquake can still yeet you to oblivion, so it's a very scary, very interesting and very scary team. The Steel Archetype is not your best friend. Some things that punch you in the face really do hate you. And as you see here, even things like Berserker, even if you do have Focus Blast, can just run through you. So there's a lot of things that you lose in the one shield. So Regirock is a great mon, but I can see a lot of strategies with this team. There is a lot of things that core break it, so this team isn't really user friendly. I would say this team has a 0.6% usage, so whoever decided to use this team, get really spicy and have a specific way of playing it. As you see here, it has an incredibly high threat score, and it just follows the ABB pattern. But again, this probably features Superior as a safe switch, and then you have something fancy with Regirock or Venusaur in the back. So it's like some kind of draw out strat, or you just win the match outright and just friendly plant everything to death. And it's really, really good. Alright, so team number 3 features a Surfetch, Alolan Marowak, and Galarian Stunfisk. Not super spicy either. It's not a Brave Bird Surfetch, so you're not going to hit him with a... Well, you're not going to hit anything with a Brave Bird with this one. It's the common Surfetch that has Leaf Blade and Night Slash, as well as Alolan Marowak. And I'm guessing for this team, G-Fisk is going to be your safe switch. So if we skim down below here, this team doesn't have a lot of coverage, not a lot of bulk, just because not really G-Fisk, but the thing is, like, Surfetch is very squishy, and combined with Alolan Marowak and G-Fisk, there's a lot of combinations that can beat you, so just be very aware. As you see here, only good coverage, not a lot of bulk either, good safety, good consistency. It's a very awkward team to be in spot number 3, but, at least some people are using it, so it's statistically good. But me personally, I don't like G-Fisk safe switch just because, like, there's a lot of things that can possibly give you a hard time, like, for example, Chestnut, Azumarill, etc. So, again, G-Fisk is, like, really interesting. Anyways, as you see here, this team does very, very well. I think it takes advantage of the G-Fisk lead. As you see here, the G-Fisk lead, Surfetch can also beat... So, here's the thing about Surfetch, because I've used it as a lead before. I actually used it to make Legend last season. It was part of my Great League team, and I broke it into PvP Poke with G-Fisk, Azu, and Surfetch in the lead. But it was a Brave Bird Surfetch. As you see here, Surfetch with Leaf Blade does beat Swampert. However, it only beats Swampert down the 2 shield or if you have Energy Lead. If you're in the 2 shield, you will lose against Swampert because it outpaces you. Just keep that in mind. I should know. And it does beat Azu in the 2 shield. So there's a ton of combinations you actually beat in the 2 shield with Surfetch. So Surfetch is actually really dope. Now the issue is that this team is very... As you see, your back row is kind of interesting because there's a lot of things that core break the back row. As you see, Swampert, Scrafty, Azu with Play Rough Hydro Pump, or just it can give you a hard time. Jellicent. There's a lot of core breakers in the back. Even Mew can give you a hard time just because Mew, Flame Charge, or Wild Charge can essentially run over this team. As you see here, it does well, like, it's a very interesting combination. If you lose the lead, you safe switch into G-Fisk, and then you clean up with these two, but it's a very interesting team. Again, there's a lot of core breakers with this team, particularly Pellet Bird, Mantine, so I don't quite understand it, of how it's so good. Like, I can understand why, but, like, at the same time, like, I just don't like G-Fist, Alolan Marowak put together, because as you see here, you lose to Azu. You can win against, okay, so the thing is, you beat Azu in the 2-shield with Surfetch, so you can rule that out. I believe you also beat Jellicent as long as you don't get jebaited by a Bubble Beam. And you can also beat Mew with Night Slash. So it's not completely terrible, but it's not the greatest thing either. Things like Pelipper and Mantine can take you out. And it's just a very, very interesting team. Of course, Altaria or Flower Leads will give you an incredibly hard time, as you see here. But, as you see, this team does generally well against a lot of combinations, but it's a very interesting team. Not one that I would recommend, because this one is very, like I said, this is a very interesting team. That I at first glance, unless I had to practice with it, I wouldn't really understand that much, because, like I said, you get core breaked by a lot of things. It is the number 3 team, however, so it statistically is powerful, but not too much from the other two. It's like 7 points off, but you know what? If it works, it works, and I think it could do really well, but like I said, you're going to need a little bit of practice before you use this and go Battle League for great. So team number 2, the second most powerful team, features Flame Charge, Wild Charge Mew, which seems to be the popular thing now instead of like Flame Charge Grass Knot or Wild Charge Surf. Surfetch and Skarmory. So this basically replaces Scrafty and just gives it a Brave Bird I like that. So it's a double Brave Bird team. This is really interesting. Anyways, as you see here, its Mew does break shields a lot, and Mew can break shields. So I'm guessing what happens is that you break shields and then you just like burb everything to death. So this is a a lot of things will die to a Brave Bird Surfetch, and because I've used it before. But as you see here, whoever uses this team, it's very, very powerful. 1.5% usage, so it's used not super common, but like it's out there. So as you see here, this team is very, very interesting because I kind of don't like it because the Skarmory safe. So what happens is that you're gonna safe switch into Skarmory, and then you're there's a lot of things that incorporate this team. You'll see what happens. So as you see here, it only has good coverage, cerebral bulk, because Mew and Surfetch aren't particularly bulky. In fact, if you put anything with Surfetch, it's kind of going to be a D outright or a C. And it only has good safety and consistency. As you see here, this team is very, very interesting. Mew is very powerful in this meta with Flame Charge, Wild Charge, because you beat a whole lot of combinations, as you see here. You're still not going to destroy Umbreon, sadly. But it seems like what happens here, if you see the Dark type or if you see a Ghost type in a leave, you safe switch into Skarmory. Skarmory takes Shield, Surfetch, and Mew clean up. And like I said, because they both have double burb, you kind of just burb everything to death. As you see, you're an incredibly powerful team with a lot of things do core break you, but I can see like what really, like it kind of not either. As you see here, your potential threats are Mew itself. Mew is probably your worst nightmare if you get the mirror, just because you have no idea what both of you have. So I would know your counts. If you know your counts, then you can possibly win back. So basically, that's what it is. Alolan Marowak is a very interesting like pick, as well as the rest over here. So this team is this team on second glance is actually very good. There's not a lot of core yes, there are things that core break this team, but there aren't they're not super popular, as you see here. Now the issue with a Flame Charge, Wild Charge Mew is that you will Swampert isn't terrified of you. So if you do fire a move out of Swampert, 9 times out of 10 it probably won't shield. So just keep that in mind. Also, Mew is getting also this team absolutely hates Bastion, because what happens is this. If you lose the lead and you have Bastion in the back, so as you see here, watch what happens. They're basically, Skarmory's gonna get destroyed by Bastion. And so does Mew. With a Flame Charge, Wild Charge, unfortunately, unless Bastion has a lot of chip damage, you're not gonna take it out. So just be mindful of that. As you see here, again, this team is very, very interesting. The Mew Skarmory core is very, very powerful and has worked well with Scrafty. Has been statistically high. So I can understand why this is the second most powerful team, as you see here. However, again, it's really interesting. Just be careful of the Ghost archetype, because basically, I think I see what happens is that Surfetch basically burbs through everyone's shields or burbs down shields, because Surfetch with Brave Bird actually has a huge kill range. As you see, a somewhat high threat score, but again, your common threats aren't really that your common core breakers aren't really that common. So you're not going to see a lot of Sunny Castform, Raikou, Ninetales, Gengar, Haunter, or Pachirisu. Dear God, I hope I don't see a Pachirisu. But again, just keeping in mind, this team is very, very difficult to use. However, if you're used to using Mew, Skarmory, and Scrafty, this team might be for you. and the most powerful team in PvPoke.com for Great League number part 5. I said that all wrong. And let me redo that. This is the greatest team in Great League for part. You know, I'm just gonna start. Anyways, so the strongest team for Great League in part 5 is Chestnut. Frostless, I'm guessing, is a safe switch with closing out with Galvantula, or Galvantula can be your safe switch depending on what goes on. As you see here, this team is very, very interesting. Like, Chestnut's really good because you basically wall G-Fist, so Chestnut does really well against Galarian Stunfisk, even though it doesn't have its Community move and Frenzy Plant. It's still really, really powerful. You get the debuff with Weather Ball, it's even better. It does take a lot of use, though. It is to, like, or a little bit of use to, like, I would say, like, if you use it a lot, if you're used to using it, it's good because Superpower is a very difficult move to use, especially with a Chestnut. So, again, it looks like Frostless or Galvantula is your safe switch. I'm guessing more of Frostless, just to break shields, and then Chestnut and Galvantula clean up. But you can also use Galvantula, because if something like a Skarmory, let's see, if something like Skarmory gets thrown into you, you could straight discharge it to death, or something of that sort. Something. Anyways, as you see here, this team does not have a lot of coverage. It also doesn't have a lot of bulk. This is Glass Cannon Central. Do you like killing things a lot, really fast? This team is for you. If you do not like bulk, if you are conservative, and you like taking a whole bunch of hits before you go down, do not use this team. Anyways, it is pretty safe, and it does a consistent amount of damage, because like I said, all three of these are essentially very glassy and do a whole lot of damage. As you see here, this team is very, very powerful, but I can see why it works so well. So, as you see here, Chestnut beats a lot of lead patterns that happen nowadays. And if you win the lead with it, what happens is you can kind of go ham. There's a lot of, it beats a lot of, for example, if you get Politoed in the lead, Chestnut destroys it, they'll say switch it to something probably like Pelipper, and guess what? Galvantula just farms you down. In fact, that's probably what happens. This team is the worst. This team destroys the G-Fist, Pelipper, and the Venusaur core. Actually, it is literally tailor-made to catch said team. So I can see how it, yeah, no wait, literally. Yeah, that's why it's so good. So it takes the most common team, takes 2 hard counters, and Frostless, and just annihilates everything. That's literally what happens. Chestnut walls the G-Fist, so they have to safe switch into Pelipper. Pelipper gets annihilated by Galvantula, and then Frostless cleans up Venusaur. So, I can see how it, like, made its way to the top. But it's still really good, as you see here. Does a lot of combinations where Chestnut does cover a lot of weaknesses that the said back row does have. And there's not a lot of things that beat Chestnut. Again, your safe switch is probably Frostless, I'm assuming. You see something like an Altaria lead. But because of the rise of Medichams, etc., you probably won't see too many Altarias. They're still out there, but they're not as common as probably as you think. Skarmory does have a strong matchup against this team, though, because as you see here, Skarmory does essentially, any flyer essentially destroys Chestnut. So you have to be very, very careful. I'm guessing you sack. What's going to happen here if you see a Skarmory, you safe switch into... You switch into Frostless, you break shields, you let Frostless go farm down Skarmory with Galvantula, and then you zap everything to death in the back. Hopefully. As you see here, this team is very, very interesting with a lot... Holy mother of God, there's a lot of things that core break it. However, like I mentioned before, this team is tailor-made to catch the most common teams, so I can see how it, like, rose its way up to the ranks and is the most powerful team. Literally, Chestnut and Galvantula destroyed the most common line in Go Battle League Part 4, so it's not a surprise why this team made its way to Part 5. As you see here, this team has a super high threat score, but again, there's a lot of things that cover around it. It's a very risky team, but if you know how to play it well, I can see how it performs so well and why it is the most powerful team in all of Great League. So it's really, really good in my opinion, and I think it rightly deserves a spot at number 1, especially if you catch the most common team from Part 4. So that's how data kind of correlates, and now you can see the pattern of how things that you see from before, or if you watch my videos, how those patterns make sense, and how previous data can apply to future data, like right now. So, again, really good team. Very difficult to use, very risky to use. However, like I said, if you are used to using glass cannons, this team could possibly be for you. And that's it. I hope this information really does help you out, but there's a lot, like, it's nice to see a change of the top teams, because a lot of patterns kind of flipped out compared to Part 4. So the Medicham Bastiodon core is still boss, but the other 4, and Mew, and also the Mew Skarm core, but other than that, you can see that there's some different things, which is nice, but again, like this team, the part 5 teams basically correlate off of part 4, where the data is like, okay, we're going to counter part 4, and then this is how everything turned out. But these teams are very powerful. Again, Medicham Bastion is still very good. If something's working for you right now, just stay with it. There has been no new additions to the game as far as meta, like Aegislash, like that's the only thing I can foresee, like literally destroying the meta in the future. Other than that, everything looks pretty great and pretty much the same. Again, if you have a team that you're comfortable using, use it. These teams are extremely powerful. However, some of them are really hard to use. But again, if you're using, you do what you're doing, use what you're using. If you're doing well in the Great League Remix, go to the Great League Remix. If you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe. I make these videos as soon as possible, as soon as the data drops. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.
Ciao!